Hello, D4C Connects podcast world. It is exciting to be back for yet another edition of D4C Connects. Today, with maybe one of the most famous guests we've had, Charles Fisher, ladies and gentlemen. Charles Fisher is our Director of Purchasing. And what we thought we would do on this episode of D4C Connects, when we think about affiliations and when we think about the questions that we get from potential affiliates, one of the key questions and one of the most common questions we get, it relates to supplies. And Charles is truly, and I mean this, the best in the business when it comes to negotiating with suppliers and making that process easy for offices to be able to order. And so we wanted to just spend a minute, Charles, with you talking a little bit about that process. You know, how do you bring the affiliates in? Everybody thinks everything changes and you're going to make them use supplies and you're not going to let them, use the things that they were comfortable using. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I don't think that's the case. I hope that's not the case. We might learn here in a minute. But talk a little bit about that and kind of your philosophy, Charles, if you will.
So Andy, thanks for having me. And so a lot to unpack there, but I think we can really clarify that in three simple ways of what we do when we affiliate an existing practice we have. We're generally clinically led, we're operationally driven, and we're going to be good stewards. I think that kind of summarizes where we are. That last one is really important because you talked about the relationships, and that's about being a good stewards. We form those relationships with the manufacturers that are going to deliver the clinical outcome that our docs say, but have the same values of us. And I think you've heard a lot of our doctors speak of that in the past as well. So we continue to champion that mission for our doctors.
So, fair to say, I'm a doctor in podcast world, and I'm listening to this. I'm thinking about affiliating with D4C. Are you going to change the supplies that I'm using in my office?
No, it goes right back to that. We're clinically led, we're operationally driven. But I am going to be that good steward and say, hey, look, here's what we use. Here's what some of our docs have seen positive results and positive patient outcomes for. I'm doing them a disservice if we don't have that conversation, but we do not dictate clinical.
And when you do that, and it was interesting, some of the other podcasts, we've talked to recent affiliates, but one of which is Dr. Randy Hamilton, and he was talking off podcast, but we were talking about supplies, and Dr. Hamilton is a good negotiator, had a pretty big practice. He was feeling pretty proud of himself that he negotiated the best pricing that he could possibly get, and I think he even challenged you day one, and he said, there's no way you got better pricing than I do, but sometimes they're very surprised that you're able to offer some savings.
It's a great point. Dr. Hamilton did a great job. We do a really nice job of forming those partnerships and those relationships. On average, you can probably expect 20% savings just with the relationships we've been able to drive. So,
and Dr. Hamilton was saying that. He said he lost the challenge. You saved him. He said like 22% is what he said, which is pretty remarkable. So then talk a little bit about kind of the bigger than just kind of the single-use supplies you'd use kind of day in and day out. Some of the more capital-intensive, think about X-ray equipment or kind of larger items in the practice.
No, it's great question though too, because everybody wants to focus on the merch side. The equipment side is so valuable as well though too, because if a pan goes down, what does that look like? And we've actually taken a proactive approach and partnered with our IT team internally and done a check to say, how old is this pan? What impact could that be to the patient? And so we're starting to replace equipment before it actually fails, like to go back to that outcome piece so we don't miss that.
And if something in the office does break, right? So you do the affiliation, you're 3 months down the road, something breaks, what happens? Is that a 5-month process to get something fixed? What happens?
No, so let's say a pan goes down, right? I mean, our goal is to try to get it replaced that week, up and running though too, with the relationships we have with distributors. But I mean, I think typical time is probably 2 weeks. If it's an emergency, we'll escalate, but we jump on it pretty quick.
And then last question, we'll let you off the hot seat, Charles. If I'm a doctor and I have a private practice now, if some new technology comes out or there's a new supply that I see at a conference or hear about, I'm able just to order it and I want to try it out on my patients. Does that change after I affiliate with D4C? I mean, am I still able to kind of talk about emerging technologies and stuff?
I hate to beat the dead horse. We don't dictate clinical. We're clinically led and we're focused on that outcome. So if a doc wants to try something, let's get it in their hands, get the feedback, and the docs talk to docs, and it goes back to that outcome focus. So, all for it.
Well, there you have it, friends. And on a podcast, no less. So now it's going to live in infamy. So, Charles, anything else messages, questions that you get or that you think would be beneficial to somebody watching this that's kind of on the edge about the decision to affiliate, in particular through the supply lens?
So I have to say this, for the thing to affiliate, I absolutely love what we're doing. I'm very passionate about what we're doing, and to bring on more affiliations to create that outcome and have that patient focus is absolutely amazing. It's the best job I've ever had, and that's genuine here on the podcast. I look forward to coming in every day and helping the patients that we serve, and it's just amazing.
Well, you do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles, and thank you, D4C Connects podcast world. I look forward to the next episode. Thanks, everybody.